What's up, guys? Today we are going to swap out the front and rear brakes on the 2005 Mustang V6. To start off, I'm going to start out with the front. First of all, you're going to want to loosen the lug nuts on your wheels while it's on the ground, just a little bit. You don't want to pull the whole wheel off. Then you're going to go ahead and jack it up, and then you're going to pull the wheel off both sides. Alright, so once you got the tire off, you're going to take a 12mm wrench or socket, whatever you prefer, but a wrench is easier for breaking it loose. So you're going to go on this top bolt right here. You're going to pop that one off. Then down here there's the same thing right there. And you're going to go ahead and take those off. If you can't get it loose, just give it a little tap with a hammer and then continue to take that piece off. Once you pull it towards you, it should slide off. It might take a little work, but this will pull off like so, and then you can pull that off. And you don't want to let it hang and have the brake line just hanging. You can set it up here is what I do. So once you get that off, which I set back there, there's gonna be a pad here, a pad on the other side. You should be able to easily pull those off. Next thing, we're gonna take off this caliper bracket, which is the same process. You'll need a 15mm wrench though, which I have right here, and then there is a screw or a bolt here that you're gonna take off, and a screw right behind this piece that you're gonna take off, which my hand is on. And then you're gonna go ahead and pop those off. You might need to use a hammer as well. You don't really need to do this if you are just changing your brake pads, but if you want to change your rotors or paint your calipers, you're gonna want to pull that piece off. Falls off. If you're taking your rotors off, you can just pull it off. I'm gonna leave mine here since I'm not. Then go ahead and swap in the new rotor. And then you basically want to follow the same steps, but if you need help, continue watching the video. Otherwise, you are set to go. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to paint these. So I got this off. And then for this one, I'm going to leave it on. You just got to basically tape off all the paint, and you want to tape off the wheel well as well, just so you don't get paint. Grab a mask, and then you're going to want to, you can use a steel brush and go ahead and wet the caliper on the outside. Brush that all off, try and get off as much as you can. Same with the bracket over here. And after that, I'm going to use some grease remover and try and get off all the stuff I can. And then I'm going to wait for it to dry, or I'm going to see if I might use a hair dryer just to speed it up. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to let that sit while the paint dries, and then you can throw it back on. Alright, so once you're done with everything, go ahead and put the new rotor on, or the old rotor. Then you're going to go ahead and put the bracket back on using the same two bolts. The only really thing you need to worry about, these pieces here, you want to have the flats up and down so the caliper can slide in easily. So go ahead and get that done. Alright, so once you get this bracket back on, you can go ahead and throw your pads on. One thing I do, you don't have to do this, you can rough them up a little bit with some sandpaper. Don't press too hard. You don't really want to take off much of the brake. You just want to prepare it for its first couple stops and such. So go ahead and do that, and then you're just going to throw it back on. You're going to have to angle this side. I put the other side on already. So you're going to want to, you got to slide this behind the bracket, and you have to angle it in. And then just make sure it presses into your brackets like that. And then that should stay there. You'll notice it's a little loose. We'll get to that in just a second. Alright, so after you get your brake pads put on, you have to drive these pistons in so they are able to fit here, since they are pushed out, since we loosened them and then pulled it out originally. So to do this, I'm using a clamp. There's an actual tool for it if you want to buy it. Otherwise, you can use a large set of clamp pliers as well, but this works best. You're just going to go ahead and throw this on here, and then you are going to tighten it until this piece right here goes in enough so you can get it over the brake. And then you're going to want to go ahead and you try and get the back on first, and then you want to push this pad in, the front pad on the outside, and you're going to push that in and slide the caliper over it. Go ahead and throw those bolts back in on the top and bottom and tighten them as much as you can. Alright, so once you get done with this, if you want, you can spray the rotor in the center with brake cleaner, which I've been using all day. Then after that, you can feel free to go ahead and throw your wheel back on and tighten up the lug nuts, and that's it. It's pretty simple. Make sure you do, before you turn the car on, pump your brake pads until the brake, or pump your brakes until the brake, like, it's firm, it's hard to push, just so you can get the pistons to come back out into their natural position. And then you want to avoid any really hard braking or long, slow braking for no reason for a little bit until your brake pads get worn in. Then after that, you're free to do what you want. Alright, so now we're onto the rear brakes. Once you get the car jacked up and the wheels off, you're basically going to repeat the process. So you're going to take off this bolt here and this one here to pull off the caliper. And after that, you're going to pull off the bracket as well if you need to. If you're not changing the rotors, you don't have to. This one's going to use a 1/2 inch for the calipers. You're going to do the same thing. If you need to knock it loose, feel free to use a hammer. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright, so once you get those 2 bolts out, you can go ahead and pull the caliper off. Make sure your parking brake isn't on, otherwise it's not going to come off because your emergency brake will be engaged, which is right here, which is connected to your rear brakes. Next thing you're going to do, there's 2 bolts, one right here, then there's another one down here. You're going to go ahead and take a 15mm wrench and go ahead and knock those off, and that'll bring the caliper bracket loose. Alright, once you're ready to put everything back together, go ahead and start with the bracket. You're going to put it on the same way you took it off and throw those 2 bolts in on the back. You get your bracket back on, you can go ahead and throw your pads on. Through this one already, the clips go out, and all you really have to do is make sure they get in the little brackets here in these pieces, and they should slide right in. Alright guys, so now you got to suppress the piston, which I already did. 100% go to AutoZone or O'Reilly's, rent this tool, you put a deposit down, and then it's free as long as you return it. You're going to take this and it's going to force the piston back in, but you also have to turn it on a rear one, and you want to make sure these are up and down, which they're not, so I need to fix this. They need to be here and here. 100% go get this tool, because otherwise your life is just going to be a pain in the ass. After this, you can go ahead and throw your pads in, and then just throw the rotor or the caliper back on, and then throw in those 2 bolts, pump the brakes, and you'll be all good. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry about the lack of detail in the end. It's really a pain in the ass to do the rear ones. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Thank you.